So the Pelicans season being over and the draft lottery right around the corner, I had to do some extensive research on the teams that ended up getting the number one pick. Where were you ranked in the NBA standings? And the results might shock you. So we're gonna break that down right now in the Pelicans Scoop. Get your popcorn, but first, cue my music.
This is the Pelicans Scoop with Jordan Kitchens, breaking down everything under the sun about your New Orleans Pelicans. Smash that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to stay on top of your Pels content. Now, running point, here's Jordan.
What is good, YouTube? Welcome back to another edition of the Pelicans Scoop. I am your host with the most, Jordan Kitchens. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm kind of coming with some sad news. I know this season, I was an advocate on it's okay to win a couple games. I was an advocate on that. I just didn't want this team to just bleep all over the floor, okay? I'm like, look, if y'all gonna bleep all over the floor every now and then, just squeeze a dub in every now and then. Like if you gonna take a deuce on my floor, at least clean it up a little bit, okay? So I was okay with them winning a game here and now and then. Then Zion and Trey were on this two-man tandem, just tearing everything up, right? And I had to do some research last night, ladies and gentlemen. So last night I did some research on the last 5 NBA drafts and who ended up getting the number one pick, and the team that got the number one pick. What was your record? Who was the worst in the league at the time? And, where were you? And the results were staggering because I was a big advocate. I'm like, well, the Atlanta Hawks, they won 36 wins last year and they got a number one pick. That was an anomaly. It seems like it was definitely an anomaly, but I already said that the Pelicans weren't going to get Cooper Flagg. I just felt like the NBA was gearing that towards the Jazz. And damn, the results will kind of lead towards that. So let's break this down right now. So I first started with the 2020 NBA draft, and the Minnesota Timberwolves ended up getting the number one pick, and they selected Anthony Edwards, of course, hit on the pick. So the Timberwolves are 19-45. That was the second worst in the West. The Golden State Warriors were the worst record in the West at 15-50, right? And the Warriors were the second pick, but the Cleveland Cavaliers were the worst team in the East, and they were 19-46. So, again, a top 3 team ended up getting the number one pick in the draft. Warriors got the second pick. Yeah, and the third pick ended up being LaMelo Ball to the Charlotte Hornets, who were not the worst team in the East. So you move on to that. You go to the 2021 NBA draft, the Detroit Pistons. That was one of their tanking years. So the Detroit Pistons selected Cade Cunningham, another hit. And the Pistons were actually the worst record in the East. They were 20-52. But the Rockets was the worst team in the NBA at 17-55. The Oklahoma City Thunder, another notable tanking team at the time, they were 22-50. So you're starting to see a pattern. If you really are a bottom feeder, you're most than likely going to get that number one top 3 pick. And I was just like, oh, well, the Hawks. I was blinded, guys. I had to go do the research, and I'm here to, I guess, apologize for sitting there. I guess I was lying. I'm here to apologize. But now that we actually have the statistics, it's very staggering. So after the 2021 draft, you go to the 2022 NBA draft, and that's when Orlando Magic selected Paolo Banchero. Another hit, but the Magic were the worst record in the East at 22-60. The worst record in the league was actually the Houston Rockets again at 20-62. So the Rockets, another team that's been bottom feeders the last couple of years, did not get rewarded with the number one pick. So there's a couple, it's just, I guess because it's the lottery system. There's too much uncertainty. Of course, it's supposed to be uncertain. That's why it's a lottery. It's not, oh, well, we're the worst record. We get the, no. So I get that. But I just did not understand how much the Rockets were taking at this time, and they were striking out on getting the number one pick. So yeah, they ended up getting Paolo Banchero. The Rockets ended up getting Jabari Smith, and I think Chet went number 2 to the Oklahoma City Thunder that year. Let's see, the Pistons were the worst team in the East that year. They were 23-59. So yeah, you're starting to see a pattern. So in 2023, the Victor Wembanyama race. Everybody was trying to get Wemby, right? But it was a little confusing because the Spurs actually were the worst team in the West. Damn it. So you're starting to see a pattern. If you really are one of the worst teams in the league, like if you really are, except for the Rockets, you will get blessed with the number one pick, it seems like. I still feel like this one was a little bit rigged. At the same time, I feel like they were only trying to get this guy to go to the Spurs. I mean, the Tony Parker thing, they got him in the pictures with the Tony Parker jersey on and all that. Tony Parker was his coach. So we've seen the signs. Maybe the NBA is rigging a little bit, especially that year where Cleveland was getting like Wiggins. They got Wiggins and Anthony Bennett and like back-to-back drafts, ended up trading out for LeBron, granted. So yeah, they're the same identical record as the Rockets again. The Rockets were again the worst team in the West at 22-60. But I'm assuming that the Rockets might have beat the Spurs that year. They might have had the season tiebreaker, so that's why the Spurs were ranked lower than them. But the worst team in the league at 17-65 was the Detroit Pistons. So that's what I was getting back at. The Pistons, have been trying to do this. They just been striking out. And last but not least, the 2024 NBA draft, when Atlanta Hawks selected my boy Ratatouille, who's been balling, okay? Ratatouille has turned it around. I guess next year I'm going to start calling him his real name and stop calling him Ratatouille because he's starting to earn that respect. So the worst team in the league last season was the Detroit Pistons, again, at 14-68. That is the worst record we'd had in a while. Oh, my goodness. And again, they did not get the number one pick. The Wizards, they were 15-67. The Blazers were 21-61, and the San Antonio Spurs come in at 22-60. And somehow, someway, the Atlanta Hawks with 36 wins, making the play-in tournament, ended up getting the number one pick. So that's really the only outlier. All right, and I was using that as such a big sample size, and I was just incorrect. So I'm here to clean all that up. That is very incorrect by me to sit there and be like, well, the Hawks did it, so it's okay if the Pelicans win a couple games. Actually, no, it's not. It's actually not. That is just an outlier. And I don't know. We might see that again next year. I don't know. But I don't like where the Pelicans sit. So I'm going to tell you guys about what's going on now. So currently now in the NBA, the Utah Jazz, they're the number one team in the NBA right now. Well, to get into Cooper Flagg, they are 16-60. I just believe that the Jazz are going to get them this year, man. Like they've been trying. They've been nipping at the bit. Perfect tank at this point. After looking at the other data that we have, this is the perfect tank. All right, you're 16-60, worst in the West by a long shot. The Eastern Conference, the Wizards are right on your tail at 16-59. Charlotte Hornets are 19-56, and then you go to the New Orleans Pelicans at 21-54. So those, and then the problem is with the Pelicans, you have the 76ers nipping at your tails at 23-52. Was not aware that the Brooklyn Nets are having a better season than the Pelicans, by the way. They're 25-51. But yes. So if history shows you, out of the Jazz, the Wizards, and the Hornets, one of those guys is leaving with Cooper Flagg. And damn. I'm not going to say the Pelicans played themselves, but they played themselves. I mean, now, if you guys don't know, they shut down Zion and CJ. I didn't have to make a whole video about that. I predicted that in my the Pelicans shut down Zion for the season video. You can go check that out. I might put it in the description. I might forget, but go check it out. I already basically broke that down, especially when Willie Green spoke to the media and he was like, that's not my call. Like, I have nothing to do with the lineups. That's up for the front office. Like, I have nothing to do with that. So I already seen the writing on the wall. Zion was done for the season. Thank God they finally did it, but it might be a little too late because you already didn't beat the Hornets. You already didn't beat the Wizards twice. You already didn't beat the Jazz. You got out-tanked. At the end of the day, the Pelicans have nobody to blame but themselves. You got out-tanked. Let's call it what it is. The Jazz, the Wizards, the Hornets, they wasn't playing around. They want Cooper Flagg more than you, apparently. They showed you how to tank. Once the Pelicans beat the Hornets, once they beat the Wizards twice, and once they beat the Utah Jazz, matter of fact, the Jazz sat their whole lineup for that game. They knew. They checked the data. I was the idiot for thinking that, because the Atlanta Hawks got the first overall pick, that, it's okay for them to win a couple games. It actually wasn't. In the end, if the Hornets end up getting the number one pick and the Pelicans beat the Hornets on Sunday, slap in the face. Like, if the Pelicans miss out, if they miss out by one pick or one spot, or they just end up falling, like it's bad. It's bad, man. I was blinded. I was blinded by the Hawks getting lucky, an anomaly. I was blinded by the anomaly. But the truth of the matter is, you have to be a top 3 bottom feeder. But you can say that, but at the same time, the Houston Rockets were, as you heard, they were one of those bottom feeders and just could not get it done. They were just not lucky enough to get the number one pick. So it's still possible, but the odds are against you. That's all I'm saying. The odds are against you. At the end of the day, when you look in the mirror, your record is your record. You got nobody to blame but yourself. All right. The Hornets, they showed you how to tank. Utah is the definition of the tank this year. And the Wizards, they've been playing the young guys, get them ready to go. So they're tanking, but at the same time, they're giving those guys valuable minutes, valuable experience. So it's each tanking style has been different. Hornets, I just feel like, are just bad, and there was injury riddle this year. Utah, they actually have good pieces, but Danny Ainge just say, no. We need the Great White Hope, buddy. We need Cooper Flagg in Utah. No free agents coming to Utah. We got to go and get this guy. So I get what Danny Ainge is doing, But in the Wizards, I just like how their tanking style was. It was more like, yeah, we're pretty bad. Let's give all these young guys all the time they need to develop. Here's all these minutes. You don't got to worry about getting pulled early. You don't got to worry about messing up. Just go out there and play. So I respect their approach. But each of these teams had different tanking styles. The Pelicans tanking style, they didn't have a tanking style. Their tanking style was, oh, we're trying to win these games, but we're bad. We're not coached correctly. This roster is put together insanely. All right. Also, at the same time, here's an injury. Here's another injury. Matter of fact, that's a labrum. Here's another labrum. Like that's just how the Pelicans cards ended up falling. Sixers, their tanking style. Oh, Embiid, Paul George, PTO, they're done for the year. Get on their podcast. That's over with. So you know what? Quinn Grimes, go in there and score 50 points. Maxey, you're done for the season. So I get it, man. It depends on how each team approached it. And I just feel like each team that really wanted to be bad this year, they did it correctly. Pelicans were trying to win games and then mask that up as a tank. It was never a tank. They were trying to win. Willie Green was coaching this. Willie Green was all this sweating coaching. Willie Green was coaching his ass off. Let's call it what it was. Willie Green was trying to give a master class and it just was not good enough, buddy. Oh, the results were just not there, but they tried. They tried to win these games, and that's kind of the problem in the end. It's kind of the problem in the end. So what do you guys think? Predict right now in the comments what pick you think the Pelicans are going to get. So let me know. We'll have a discussion about that. And yeah, man, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. But the odds are not in our favor. So hopefully I can be wrong, and hopefully I can sit there and make a video this summer and be like, yeah, Pelicans, top 3 pick, woo! But we shall see. We shall see. So thank you guys for sticking for another edition of Pelicans Scoop. Got a treat for you guys coming up. End of the season recap soon. Oh, it's going to be a doozy. So you stay locked in for that. It's coming. So thank you guys for sticking in, man. We've been your boy Jordan, and I'm signing out. Peace.